Thank you. Hello, everybody. So I'm Paul Rinaudo. I'm the CEO and founder of ADLIN. And today I'm with Adel, who is our business developer manager. So we're going to present to you today ADLIN with one main aspect is we believe that multi-modal data structuration will be the next bottleneck of AI development. And breaking news, we might be one of the only company who does not develop any AI in the whole salon. Our focus is the step before, is how do we enable access to data and qualitative data on top of that in the healthcare sector. Because we've seen that most of the actors today have this main burden to be able to access these data, to have it visible, and to make sure it responds to their use cases in a qualitative way. And we're not the only one telling that. So, for example, Camille Bouget, who is the CEO of Scientalab, who is a tech bio, who's explaining us that she needs to have longitudinal and contextualized data to be able to train their model. It's true also for our host today, Eduardo Mesrac, who is the CEO of Artifact, who's saying that for him, it's a myth to think structured data is not necessary. Last but not least, it's hospitals as well are seeing the same thing, that for them, it's very, very important to have as much context on the data to make sure that they can use the data in the right use cases. So there is a clear consensus that without qualitative data, AI in healthcare will remain an untapped potential. We see a lot of different AI models developing. They have been progressing a lot, but we might have a threshold in the way that they will qualitatively impact the different use cases. So which type of problem do we have in healthcare data? The first one, there's a lack of multimodal data. The capacity to have as much information related to a patient is key to be able to understand diseases, molecular pathways, and the best way to treat patients. The other constraint is a lack of highly quality standardized data sets, because the capacity to merge data sets between different sources is key to have the critical size to be able to address the different use cases. The third one is the lack of contextualized data. When you say qualitative data, most of the time you think, okay, does it have a standard? Is it interoperable? But for patients, for let's say molecular data, the context in which the data has been generated is as important as the data itself. So you need to know on which patient, if you have a biopsy, how the biopsy has been made, if the sample has been stored, how the sample has been stored. This contextualization is key. The last one is the multi-centric aspect. Again, if you don't have the right volumetry of data, is a real challenge to be able to address a lot of healthcare problematics. And those lacks of data are materialized by other problems, such as the silos between the stakeholders. In healthcare, you have doctors, you have hospitals, you have research centers, you have pharma. Each one holds a piece of the data of a patient. And those silos are slowing down the capacity to develop AI to address those use cases. Of course, you have interoperability problems and governance with all the GDPR and regulatory constraints that you all know. So what do we do at ADLIN? Well, our vision is to transform biomedical data into clinical impact. And you see in the three aspects, we're in the beginning of the value chain. There is biomarker discovery. How do we identify how pathologies are appearing? Disease understanding by their molecular pathway understanding. And also how can you better architecture clinical trials? There's a lot of different projects and initiatives to improve clinical trials because it's a huge cost. We believe that a good way to do it is to be able to structure the data before that to make sure that the architecture of the clinical trial are more optimal. And so how we do it? First, by connecting the dots. So you have many actors in the value chain. You have research, preclinical, clinical phases, care, and it's an ongoing circle. And you see that data is generated in different parts. And we believe that to be able to address the healthcare problematic today and imply AI in this ecosystem, you need to have access to all this data around the patient. So our specialty, because we cannot do everything, is omics data. We believe that having the capacity to structure omics data will be one of the key to be able to address precision medicine. And so to do that, we have developed several set of solutions. The first one, based on data structuration and contextualization. We have a collaborative platform where biologists, bioinformaticians, data scientists can collaborate on a daily basis and where they can share their experiments, their progress, to make sure that all the data is structured in a longitudinal way, without silos. We addressed that a little bit this morning in the urbanization of research centers or hospitals. We don't know how many different softwares, different tools that are being used, and are hardly connected, because each persona has his own tool. We believe that we need to create this interconnection to make sure they can work collectively. The second aspect is the data quality. And here, especially in multi-omic data, we have created an integrated platform to automatically generate bioinformatical pipelines. Because compared to real-world data, which is structured by FHIR or OMOP, omics data don't have a standard today. So when you want to aggregate data from different centers, well, you don't have a good scientific interoperability. So being able to structure automatic pipeline is more efficient, gain time for bioinformatician, but you make sure that data is interoperable. It's true within a center, but it's even more true when you want to aggregate data from different centers. Of course, here we're talking about multi-omic. It's true for imaging, it's true for real-world data, it's true for any set of data. The idea is to combine those different processes to make sure that the data is structured qualitatively. The third aspect is you need to analyze the data. When you put the context, you structure it in the right way, then you decide to analyze it. And we see more and more the necessity to analyze the data on-premise, where the data has been generated. So we've integrated a series of tools where data scientists, AI specialists, bioinformaticians can work collectively directly on the source of the data. You avoid copying data, you avoid loss of context, you avoid silos, and by having this integrated environment, you make sure that you can progress scientifically more efficiently. This is key. So you need to address at the same time the collaboration, the data structuration, and the place where you will realize the analysis. And this is a real challenge. And sometimes we could start with that, because we can say, okay, we want to structure the data, have a lot of different images, omic data, with our super heavy, which requires a lot of computing power. But we know that in most hospitals or research centers, we don't have the resources to do that. So what we've done is we built a partnership with Dell to make sure that we have the right business model to integrate resources locally for them to deploy the use cases they want to address within the institution. So it's a fully embedded solution that can drive directly solutions to clinicians, to scientists. But the other aspect is those data that are generated within these public institutions are the same data that pharmaceutical companies, biotech, startups, AI companies need to use to be able to progress scientifically. But they very hardly can use local resources from hospitals. So what we have done, we're building a partnership with Scaleway, which is a sovereign cloud provider, where public institutions can send their data in a private cloud managed by them, where they can invite private companies to use their own data. And this is something that is new, where public institutions are willing to use cloud environment to be able to share their data by keeping control of this data. And last but not least, we are very proud to have another partnership in Montpellier with the CINES, which is a supercalculator, one of the 3 main supercalculators in France, which is one of the only one which will be HDS in the coming month. So our vision is to have the capacity to deploy ADLIN in a hybrid sovereign environment where we work with our partners to co-design their data model to make sure the data is qualitative, with the capacity to implement genomic pipeline, multi-omic pipeline, to improve scientifically the different challenges of our partners, and finally to have the capacity to, as automatically as possible, digest this data and to make it available to the rest of the ecosystem. Thank you very much for your attention.